Hello. Hello. Is my mic on? Is there anybody there yet? There's nobody there yet. I'm going to wait for a couple of people to show up because I think a couple of people are going to show up. It's Monday night, April 6th, 2020. Welcome to the Daily Faded. I'm Hetz. I hope you will get faded with me. Either toke up or have a sip. Whatever you need to do to get through the night. Oh my goodness. So this week is our Pearl Harbor moment. So says the Surgeon General to anyone who will listen. This week is our Pearl Harbor moment. It's kind of a weird way of putting it when we've already lost more people to coronavirus than we lost at Pearl Harbor. We've already lost more people to coronavirus than we lost on 9/11 by a lot. So to call this our Pearl Harbor moment or our 9/11 moment seems off to me. That just seems off. Especially because they're talking about a week. They're talking about an entire week, you know? So it's not a moment, it's a week. Or is it 2 weeks? Anyway, welcome to the stream tonight. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to be back with you. Sorry I wasn't here Thursday night, but I wasn't here Thursday night. So, I just want to say, again, thank you for being here. My gratitude. I hope that you are well. I hope that you are safe at home inside and taking care of yourself. And I hope that you and yours are okay tonight. Tonight, April 6th, there are over 1.3 million cases of coronavirus, COVID-19 confirmed around the globe. And that's up over 5% from yesterday. And there have been officially 74,706 deaths, which is up over 7% from yesterday. But without a doubt, those numbers are very low. I'm sure there are a lot of deaths that have not been counted as COVID-19 deaths. People who died before people were testing for COVID-19. People who haven't been found in their homes yet, all over the world. In the United States, we're up to 367,004 cases, which is up over 9% from yesterday. And we are now, or at least at 7 o'clock Pacific this evening, we were at 10,896 deaths in the United States, which is up over 13% from yesterday. There were 1,301 deaths in the United States today from COVID-19. I just feel a need to read these numbers every night. Maybe I'll never have 100,000 viewers on YouTube, but some distant time in the future, I might come back and watch these videos and relive what happened during this crisis. It's the weed. It got a little in my nose. It's not coronavirus. I'm going to keep saying that. In California, we now have 16,019 official cases, which is up over 5% from yesterday. And we have 380 deaths, which is up over 8% from yesterday. However, there is good news here in California. The University of Washington model, which California has been using, projects that California is only going to need 19,000 ventilators instead of its original projection of 32,000 ventilators. The projection for ICU beds is down from 40,000 to 30,000 ICU beds. And the projection for additional beds is down from 262,000 additional beds to 141,000 additional beds. This projection assumes that California continues to physical distance in the way it currently is. That is all very good news. Now, it is still hard for us to get 19,000 ventilators or 30,000 ICU beds or 140,001 additional beds. That's still a monumental challenge. But the fact that those numbers have come down means that we are doing what our governor and our mayor have charged us with doing, which is flattening the curve, extending the process so that all the cases don't come in at once. They come in over time, and the healthcare system, they're more spread out instead of all hitting the healthcare system at once. California, Gavin Newsom announced today during his live stream that California is sending 500 or sent 500 ventilators to the national stockpile. So we're being good neighbors. And Newsom talked about, having the trust that when we need them, ventilators will come our way. I worry a little bit about that, but if they're needed and we don't need them right now, then they should go to people who need them. Now I'm going to go through a bunch of random shit before I get to Trump's press conference. I'm just going to go through a bunch of random shit that was in the news. The International Monetary Fund, not one of my favorite international organizations, denied a $5 billion emergency loan to Iran. The EU was fully behind it, but the United States vetoed it. Iran is desperately in need of help, and $5 billion is not that much when you consider the fact that we have spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars on ourselves already to deal with this crisis. Iran does not have the ability to spend like we do. So those would be more bodies piling up under Trump's watch. The Pentagon ordered 100,000 body bags. That's a cheerful thought. God, what an awful... These are just awful times, man. So though things are going a little bit better here in California than they are in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, things are not going great in New York. New York City has enough medical supplies for about 2 days. Now, I assume when they say that, they're just talking about the city hospitals. There's like a City Hospital Corporation of New York or something like that, which is the public healthcare system in New York City. Javits Center and the naval ship Comfort are both being converted into COVID positive spaces for caring for COVID patients. So, I don't know how well stocked the Javits Center and I'd assume the Comfort is extremely well stocked. But I don't know how well stocked the Javits Center is. So we'll see. But the stories coming out of New York's hospitals, if you read the personal stories, the anecdotal stories, the nurses, the doctors, it's ugly, and they don't have the gear that they need. When Bill de Blasio says they're 2 days from running out of the gear that they need, they already are going in garbage bags instead of gowns because they're out of gowns. They're wearing ski goggles and, I heard one nurse say today that she had a single N95 mask for 5 12-hour shifts. And I think those are supposed to be I don't know if they're supposed to be single use or not, but you're not supposed to use them 5 days in a row. That's for sure. Reports are now starting to come out from various places that people of color are being disproportionately affected by this disease because, of course, they are. I won't go into what the reasons are. I don't want to speculate necessarily. I mean, systemic racism is the reason. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been so light about that. Systemic racism is absolutely the reason. But I'm not going to pretend that I know the exact reasons that they have so many problems in, for example, Milwaukee County. In Milwaukee, 81% of the COVID deaths are Black, while only 26% of the population of Milwaukee is Black. So that is a vastly disproportionate ratio. AOC has been bringing this up on Twitter a bit. And, of course, she's getting mocked by the right, who are, disingenuous as always. But it's really true that you have worse health outcomes if you're not a white person. It's really simple. Moving on. Boris Johnson moved into the ICU today, one day after going into the hospital for tests. He is now in the ICU. Captain Crozier of the USS Theodore Roosevelt has tested positive for COVID-19. I don't know if this happened before or after he was relieved of his duty. It was interesting. It sounds like the public opinion on Captain Crozier may be swaying Trump. When this came up in the press conference today, Trump kept saying what a great career Captain Crozier had, and that maybe, he wrote a bad letter, not like Trump's perfect letter, but maybe, he had a bad day and maybe he shouldn't lose his entire career because he had a bad day. Who knows with Trump? You never know what side he's going to land on with any person. I mean, he's completely irrational. Completely irrational. The DNC moved the Democratic National Convention to the week of August 17th, which is just 1 week before the Republican National Convention. And yet, at the same time, Biden argued, I think yesterday, that they should go forward with the Wisconsin primary. Was that yesterday? 2 days ago? I guess that was 2 days ago that Biden made that argument on TV. Which brings us to the Wisconsin primary. So the governor had asked for help from the legislature. The Democratic governor had asked for help from the Republican legislature. The Republican legislature gave him no help. So today he officially postponed the election, the primary election, which is set for tomorrow. And the Republican legislature sued him in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said that he did not have the authority to move the election. So thank you to the Wisconsin Supreme Court for causing a spike in COVID-19 deaths in Wisconsin sometime a week to 3 weeks down the road. Thank you for that. Thank you for holding an election that is not valid. Because if people are threatened with the possibility of catching a deadly virus when they go vote, why the fuck are they going to go vote? That's ridiculous. You could vote. It might kill you, but you could vote. This is democracy. Oh man, Trump went on a thing about how you got to go into a voting booth and you got to vote. You can't vote by mail, which, of course, the only reason they don't want vote by mail is because it would increase voter participation. And increased voter participation is bad for Republicans. So these scumbags in Wisconsin, for not postponing this election, this is just above and beyond. I mean, you gotta be a serious douchebag to come to that decision. Dr. Fauci had to get a security detail due to death threats. Yesterday, hashtag Fire Fauci was trending on Twitter for a long time. And it was MAGA people with conspiracy theories about Fauci. Apparently, he's a deep state Democrat trying to destroy Trump, out to get Trump. So they're just fools. But again, it's dangerous. It's just dangerous, you know? Anybody who is not, if you're not, Fauci is a little too politically correct for Trump. You know what I mean? The politically correct to not saying things that Trump doesn't want him to say. That is Fauci's singular, as I can tell, flaw in this situation, is that there are times when he needs to be more vocal than what he's being. But I understand that he is up to the task and he knows what he's talking about. And he's just trying to navigate the political waters to the best of his ability to do the best job he can to save as many Americans as possible. I do think that's true of Fauci. So for people to be demonizing him, for him to need a security detail, U.S. Marshals following him around, that's crazy. It's crazy. The Queen spoke to the English people yesterday, encouraged them to get through this with the same resolve, good humor, and fellow feeling that has characterized Britons in the past. And she's referenced the Vera Lynn song, We'll Meet Again. Some people on Twitter thought that she was referencing the end of Dr. Strangelove. I think when the Queen of England, who was around for World War II, mentions Vera Lynn, she's just mentioning Vera Lynn. Probably, I'm pretty sure about that. Which, of course, means that we'll have our own Vera Lynn for the coronavirus pandemic. And that will be Cardi B. Yes, she will be our Vera Lynn with her Cardi B coronavirus mix. I say that with nothing but love for Cardi B. Seriously, I think she's awesome. Mississippi Republican Governor Tate Reeves, after waiting until just 2 days ago to declare a statewide stay-at-home policy, declared today that April is Confederate Heritage Month in Mississippi. Yay, aren't you thrilled? Doesn't everyone want to go down to Mississippi? And I don't think so. That's got to be the cheapest red meat ever thrown to a constituency in history. Okay, yeah, you got to stay home, but hey, Confederate heritage. You can stay home, but you have to stay home, but you can still be racist. That's got to be the Daily Fail today. Confederate Heritage Month. Definitely the Daily Fail today. Um, oh boy. Governor Cuomo of New York increased the social distancing fine from $500 to $1,000. New York's numbers have leveled off a little bit over the last 2 days, but they still have several hundred dying each day. I think it was over 500 yesterday, maybe 600 the day before. It's not clear if that means they're nearing their apex or if there's going to be another spike. It could go either way. And we just won't know for a couple more days until we see the trend lines a little more clearly. So, Trump's press conference today. I didn't know if I was going to be spending a lot of time talking about this, but every day gets more psychotic and deranged, and he's just lost his mind. He's just lost his mind. You know, so good news that they're allowing New York and New Jersey to use the U.S. naval ship Comfort for COVID-19 cases, as well as the Javits Center. So that's great. He went on a ridiculous rant using war hyperbole, comparing healthcare workers to soldiers and talking about how they charge into battle without any fear and with no concerns for themselves. And I thought he watched a lot of TV. Because if he watches any TV, I mean, I guess they're not showing these stories on Fox, but if you read in the newspaper, and I'm sure the local TV is crazy with it, the stories of the local doctors and how scared they are, and the nurses and how scared they are, and how afraid they are that they'll infect their families, how afraid they are that they'll get really sick themselves, and how committed they are to their patients, but that they just need they need the goddamn equipment and they need tests, but they need PPE. And so he goes on this ridiculous war thing, and he's painting himself as a wartime president. I think he desperately wants to be a wartime president. He's trying to turn himself into FDR or Lincoln or whatever. But drop the war rhetoric. It's just terrible. He talks about Biden. He talks about having a wonderful conversation with Biden. Yeah. Hamza Che, wasting money sending postcards to everyone. I think that's right, dude. Um, yeah, 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 and getting all of this direct payments delivered, like it's 3 weeks to 4 months. If you didn't have a direct deposit on file with the IRS last year, Jesus Christ, give me a break. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm sure, and I'm sure Mnuchin, we haven't seen him behind the mic the last couple of days because you're right, Hamza. We should make masks out of those cards. Uh, we haven't seen Mnuchin behind the mic the last couple of days because he's been doling out all of that big money bailout money. You know, he's busy giving money to the banks and giving money to the airlines and the oil industries and all of them. So the thieving is going on right in front of our fucking eyes. It's going on right in front of our eyes. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a minute on Trump. So Trump was talking about speaking with Biden. It was a wonderful, warm conversation, very friendly, very friendly. Agree 100%, my man. bailing out industries is okay as long as they have to keep their employees, as long as they're not getting rich off of it, as long as they're not doing stock buybacks, as long as they're not consolidating capital to buy out small companies, small distressed companies that weren't able to make it, that weren't able to get a federal loan, a federally backed loan, you know? So, yeah. Trump did inadvertently say that Americans should all stay home. We still have no national stay-at-home order or recommendation, as it would be. And then Trump did a song and dance about it not being constitutional for him to tell people to stay at home, which is absurd. Like, no, it would not be constitutional to just say, hey, you can't leave your house for any reason, but to evoke an emergency authority and recommend that all Americans stay home would mean a lot. I hope you're smoking with me. He was asked about testing. The reporters did a good job pressing Trump about testing, and he just fucking lied. He just straight up lied. There was a health service, health and human service, HHS, HHS IG report that showed. Yeah, no doubt, brother. It is 420 every day, all day, every day. So they surveyed over 300 major metropolitan hospitals, and the number one problem that all of the hospitals have is that they can't get tests. They can't get tests done quickly enough. They can't get testing. So that's what everyone is saying. And they kept coming back to this, and Trump kept saying, well, it's a nasty question. You're a bad reporter, stuff like that. Well, you look at how much testing I've done. Why don't you thank me for all the testing that I've done? It's disgusting. It's just, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's hard to watch these fucking things, They got him to say that direct cash payments to people were going to be in coronavirus 4 legislation. Seeing as how I don't really believe that people are going to be getting it in this current round of legislation, I will believe that when I see it. However, there is good news on Trump, which is that hospitals in rural areas are struggling to even afford new respirators because they're in such short supply, and we don't have a universal healthcare system. It's absolutely true. It don't get me started on the infrastructure plan. The Democrats have to say no to any infrastructure plan that isn't a Green New Deal. But one of the big problems states are having is that they don't have public healthcare systems. The hospitals do not all have direct relationship with the county or the statewide healthcare systems. The private hospitals have different relationships with the healthcare officials than the public hospitals have. And that makes it harder to track where supplies are. It makes it harder to track who might have additional PPE. It makes it harder to figure out where ventilators need to go. So one of the things that is proving flawed in our system is that there is no central command and control in a time of crisis when you need central command and control. And that's because we've privatized the entire system and sliced it up into little pieces. Anyway, the good news, there was an article in the Hill tonight, a University of North Florida poll. So who knows if it's a good poll or not. I have no idea about the University of North Florida. I'm sure they're lovely people. More than half of Florida voters surveyed in this new poll, 53% said they disapprove of President Trump's response to the coronavirus pandemic. 58% also said they do not trust Trump to give reliable information on the crisis. 58% of people in Florida do not trust the president for reliable information. Mind you, I'm sure that number is much fucking higher in New York and California and Washington and Illinois and Michigan and Louisiana. So one of the big stories, yeah, I mean, look, if Trump loses Florida, Trump loses. If Trump loses Florida, he loses. That's all there is to it. And a lot of old people are going to die in Florida. And it is clearly the blood is on the hands of Governor Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. I'm sorry, it just is. They should have shut things down in Florida weeks ago. Weeks ago. So the so there was a big story today. You're right. There was a big story today that everyone was talking about, which was I don't know if it was Politico that reported this, that there was a like screaming match between White House aide Peter Navarro, who's an economic aide and a douchebag, and Dr. Fauci. Navarro claiming that because he has a PhD, he is as good at interpreting data as Dr. Fauci, was presenting, some non-control studies of people using hydroxychloroquine in France and in China, but there was no control, let alone a double blind. So that's not useful data. That's not useful information. Now, I went into college as a physics major. I ended up studying English and film, but I know enough about science to know that that's meaningless. It's completely meaningless. You may have simply given it to someone who was getting better. You have absolutely no way of knowing whether or not it's doing anything. And Fauci stood his ground that there aren't sufficient studies to prove that it works, that they're only anecdotal studies, and that they can't be trusted. And, the thing is, Trump desperately wants to be right about hydroxychloroquine. He wants to be President Hydroxychloroquine. He wants to be the guy who got everybody the medication they need to get better from COVID-19. Well, and then yesterday, after Trump had been going on and on about hydroxychloroquine, which is fascinating to watch people mispronounce it. No one seems to get it right. And now I'm probably going to get it wrong. But Trump goes on a long rant about, hydroxychloroquine and how wonderful it is and how much of it we've bought, 28 million doses or something like that. And one of the main manufacturers of hydroxychloroquine is Novartis, which paid Michael Cohen $1.2 million for lobbying access to Trump. Interesting. Trump stopped Fauci from answering the question. So Trump was going on about hydroxychloroquine. Sorry, I dropped the thread there. Little stoned. And the reporter says, well, I'd like to ask Dr. Fauci, is that your understanding with hydroxychloroquine? And Trump interrupted and stepped in kind of menacingly and was like, you've asked that question 15 times. That's a bad question. The doctor doesn't have to answer that question. The doctor's answered that question already. And he wouldn't let him talk. It was actually a perfect encapsulation of everything that's wrong with this situation, is that we need a direct answer from the doctor, from the fucking scientist. And instead we have to listen to a buffoon who is being funded by pharmaceutical companies. There was an amazing article in Sludge today, and I'm starting to really love Sludge as a website because they do excellent corruption reporting. Pharma-funded group tied to a top Trump donor is promoting malaria drug to the president. Quote, founded by one of Trump's top donors, the Job Creators Network has been pushing Trump to approve the use of hydroxychloroquine for treating COVID-19. On March 26th, Job Creators Network, a conservative dark money nonprofit, launched a petition, a series of Facebook ads, and a blast text message campaign calling on Trump to cut the red tape and immediately make hydroxychloroquine available to treat patients. There is clear and ever-mounting evidence that the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine can significantly help patients who contract coronavirus, the petition states, despite the lack of rigorous clinical testing. The Job Creators Network was founded in 2011 by billionaire Home Depot co-founder Bernard Marcus, a major GOP donor who spent more than $7 million through outside groups to help elect Trump in 2016. Marcus has said that he plans to spend part of his fortune to help re-elect Trump in 2020. Job Creators Network has been funded by Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, PhRMA, a drug industry trade group that counts among its members leading hydroxychloroquine makers Novartis, Teva, and Bayer. According to tax documents, PhRMA donated $500,000 to Job Creators Network in 2017. Novartis, Teva, and Bayer have all committed to providing millions of doses of hydroxychloroquine for clinical testing, and the companies potentially stand to profit if the drug becomes adopted as a common coronavirus treatment. This is what David Pakman likes to call products for coronavirus customers. Hat off to Pakman for that. I like that. I like that. I don't know if Trump actually said that at one point. I wouldn't be surprised if he did because he's such a fucking idiot. But so they're just doing the donor's wishes. You know, they're just doing the donor's wishes. The one last thing that I'll just throw in here. The Washington Post reported the White House priorities for the next coronavirus bill. You're going to love this. A blanket waiver exempting businesses from liability if employees get COVID. A payroll tax cut. A capital gains cut. And of course, infrastructure. And for Trump, infrastructure means that they give a lot of money to a company to build a freeway, and then the company has tolls on that freeway, and it's not a freeway, it's a highway, it's a toll road. I don't know what the fuck you call it. A toll road. That's what they mean by infrastructure. So so when the reporter got him to say that he was considering direct cash payments, it was such a joke. Like, all they're doing is just looting the country. They're looting the country. They're looting the Federal Reserve. They're looting the Treasury. Trump just wants an excuse to buy as much hydroxychloroquine as possible because he knows that he's going to get a shit ton of money from these fuckers to help get him reelected. The other little gem from Trump from last week that has not been revisited is when Mike Pence said all coronavirus treatment will be covered in the United States, and that it will be covered at the Medicare rates if you don't have insurance, and that it will be unlawful for hospitals to bill patients for coronavirus treatment. It either gets billed to insurance or it gets paid for by the government. So it's basically Medicare for COVID-19. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. I think that they sometimes like to say left-wing things because they sound good. Obviously, it's what should happen. If Trump does that, then I will say hats off to him for doing that. Um, but there's one last thing here that's very interesting to me, which is, and I can't remember who I heard say this. I wish I could. I heard someone say this. I wish I could take credit for it myself, but I hadn't thought this through. The health insurance companies are all saving money right now because elective surgeries are being put off, right? So the health insurance companies have said that premiums are going to go up as much as 40% next year because of all of the additional costs due to coronavirus. But at the same time that they're incurring these costs for coronavirus, they're realizing huge savings in people because people are putting off their elective surgery. And then in many cases, people will put off their elective surgery until after the rates have gone up. So they're going to make money on both sides. They're going to do fine during the actual pandemic. Their stock values keep going up. Their stock values keep going up. No one in the business community seems to think that they're going to be having any trouble anytime soon. And yet they're going to use it as an opportunity to raise premiums 40%. It's a kleptocracy, my friends. It's a kleptocracy. That's what we live in the United States of COVID-19. If for some reason you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If for some reason you haven't hit the notification button, please hit the notification button. And there's 4 people and 4 likes, so I have to say thank you for that. And I'll be back tomorrow night at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. I'm Hetz. Follow me on Twitter, _Hetz. Peace out, y'all. Stay safe. Be well.